Good evening. Welcome to our first annual State of the School Address. This type of event is common practice among schools, but until now, we haven't had the privilege to hold one. In our new building, we decided that it was time to begin the tradition. And more than a tradition, we see it as an intentional step towards the parent partnership. Joining me on the stage to welcome you is our board and our leadership team. Tonight, I want to take you on a rich historical journey of our school, let you into the inner workings of our budget, and provide direction for our future. In order to set the stage, we have a few stories to share with you. There's something special about each of these stories, because in each, God is the main character. So let's embark. Tommy is an upperclassman at Ascent Christian. One day he approached Miss Chanel, our apologetics teacher, who was sitting in the lobby of our school, and asked her if she had 10 minutes to talk. To which she responded, "Of course, what do you want to talk about?" At that point, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a crumpled piece of paper full of questions. It was questions about the Lord. He shared that he had been meeting a lot of people who weren't Christians, and it was challenging his faith. At that moment, she realized that 10 minutes simply would not suffice, and they planned to discuss his questions on a later date. You see, Tommy had a safe place to come with his questions. He had someone in his life who would echo the voice of his parents, and more importantly, the voice of the Lord. At Ascent Christian, we exist to partner with parents to ignite a lifelong passion for Jesus in students through experiences of academics, worship, mission, leadership, and adventure. Daily, we see our mission and our core values of truth and humility, people and relationships, and work and play actively modeled through our staff, our students, and you, our families. At Ascent Christian, we believe that God delights in Christian education. I know this because I know that He delights when His children are seen and known and loved. He delights when they discover truths about Him, and He delights when their transformation brings His kingdom to earth. Christian education develops character-strong, spiritually grounded, and academically equipped young adults. These are the types of people and the types of leaders that our world desperately needs. And we need Christian education more than ever. So most of you know that this is my first year of empty nesting. And with empty nesting comes a quiet home and times of reflection. I find myself wondering where the time went, asking myself, did we prepare them for the next season? And honestly, the harder question of what would we have done differently? I can tell you that I wouldn't have passed on my coffee addiction to my daughter Grace at such a young age. And if I knew the actual cost of an F-150 truck, I would have held back on the Hot Wheels for my son, Owen. Yeah. But in all seriousness, and in all of the questioning, my husband and I are in agreement about one thing we would choose to do again. Over and over in our conversations and our reminiscing, we agreed that without a shadow of a doubt, we would still choose Ascent Christian. We would still choose the mission, we would still choose the model, we would still choose the sacrifice. We can truly say that in this area, we have no regrets. And so as I stand on the precipice of a new season of motherhood, I say to you, you will not regret being the primary discipler of your children. You will not regret being present in their lives, because someday, I promise you, your house will be empty and quiet. And I pray that someday you too will look back and find yourself so grateful for how you chose to invest in your children. There is one thing that I am convinced every single child in our school needs. It's you. Parents, I want to take this opportunity to recognize the sacrifices that you make to send your children here. You are people who have chosen a narrow path. Educating and discipling your children is no small task. It takes early mornings and late nights and everything in between. And yet your presence in their lives is a reflection of God Himself. He's chosen you. He's chosen you to be His hands and His feet, His arms wrapped around your children when they are sick. He delights when your children put on a play for you in your home, His guidance when there's friendship drama, and His words when they are tired and overwhelmed. He's chosen you. Thank you for choosing Him and choosing to be present in the lives of your children. We see you. We see your sacrifices, and they matter. So now it's time for the story of our school. Like any story, there are storms, seemingly insurmountable obstacles, and victories along the way. Yet what sets this story apart is the thread of God's faithfulness woven through every single chapter of our school's history. The story begins 5 years ago. In 2021, the proverbial ship was sinking, and there were holes that only God could fill. Historically speaking, our school had been sustained by one single donor. When that donor left, that created a deficit in our budget that our tuition could not cover. So we had two options. We could close our doors, or we could step out in faith and pray that the Lord would bring us the provision that we needed. We chose the second. In coordination with the finance committee and board, we did our part by cutting admin staff and operational costs. But there was one area we were unwilling to undervalue: our teachers. At this point in our school's history, our teachers were only paid for the hours they actually taught in the classroom. Yet they were still required to plan and grade and prepare just like any other teacher. So when you factor in the hours that it actually takes to teach and grade and prep, our teachers were making roughly $5 an hour to do a job of excellence. After being a classroom teacher myself, I knew the time and sacrifices that our teachers were making. Although the ship was sinking, the board and I made the only right decision. We were going to raise teacher salaries. If the school wasn't going to survive the storm, we wanted our teachers to know that they were valued. We more than doubled their salaries that year. We knew we had enough funds to operate the school until February 2022, but God had other plans. Within 6 weeks, our enrollment increased dramatically. Then other donors surfaced, and eventually the PPP government funds from COVID came through. God guided our ship through the first storm. Through the subsequent years, we maintained an operational deficit in our budget while encountering more storms. God faithfully provided each year, from COVID and more generous donors to bridge the gap in our budget. Through these payments and donations, we were able to give our teachers 2 additional raises, bringing them to a total of $16 an hour and paying them for more hours that actually represent the needs in the classroom and their commitment to the role. Our goal in the meantime was to patch the holes and right the ship. So we focused on teacher retention, establishing policies and procedures, safety and security, academic best practices, and, as you know, a new location. Each year we question, how would we make it? And each year God provided in ways we did not expect. We've come a long way. And I share this story only to give the glory, the credit, and the honor to God. It is through Him that we have arrived here. But before we can move on in our school story, I want to give you a mini lesson in Christian school finance and our current budget structure. So first, you should know that a private school is a very poor economic model. The average cost to educate a child is $17,000 to $19,000 per year. We are running a business in which most people are not willing or able to pay the actual cost. So who's paying for the gap? In our school's budget, there is one donor who gives more than $344,000 each and every school year. It's our teachers. Our teachers are likely unaware of how much they financially donate to our school. But most are aware that they would, on average, earn anywhere between $36 and $50 an hour working at a public school in Colorado Springs. Instead, they make $16 an hour. Yeah. We have heard it said that because we are a ministry, our teachers should work for less money. We disagree. For the labor is worthy his wages, says the Lord. Our teachers are held to high standards as professionals and as Christians, and their excellence is worth more than entry-level pay. So teachers, if you are here with us tonight, I want to personally thank you for continuing to provide excellence, for bringing professionalism to your trade, for discipling our students, and as I have said to you before, thank you for saying yes. So now let's get back to our lesson. You've just heard that our teachers and staff are underpaid, but you might be wondering, can't you just cut costs elsewhere? I want to give you a snapshot of our budget. 71% of our budget is payroll. The majority of our staff and teachers, the majority of our staff are teachers, which we cannot cut without cutting classes, which we don't want to do. And the majority of our administrative staff are part-time and serve in multiple capacities. 23% is rent and security, leaving us with 6% of operational expenses, which include legal fees, insurance, classroom support items like copiers, papers, consumable. Nothing in our budget is discretionary. So, how are school budgets actually made? Traditionally or typically, schools rely on two forms of revenue streams: tuition and donations. Each year, schools build their annual budgets off projected increased enrollment and projected donations. Here's the problem with this. Both of these vary year to year, and yet schools still build their budgets off of variables, creating unpredictability and instability in their operational budget. So in our budget, we have a generated revenue of tuition that covers roughly 75% of our operational budget. As I told you, we operate our school with a deficit every year. This year, that deficit was 25% of our budget. This was partially due to a long history of not adequately raising tuition to cover costs, relying on donations, inflation, and the choice to raise our teachers' pay rates to $16 an hour. So I want to show you a pie chart that shows you how this year's deficit was met. 42% was covered by teacher donations. 9% of that was covered by ERC, the Employee Retention Credit, which is a one-time payment from the government in response to COVID. 12% was covered by capital campaign reserves, which was intentionally allocated from the capital campaign for the move. 20% was covered by donations and year-end giving. At Ascent Christian, we have generous donors that give regularly to support our operational budget. 17% was covered by a rent discount. In the future, our rent will go up incrementally as determined in our lease due to the inflationary costs. So when enrollment goals or projections for donations are not met, the schools, us included, are left scrambling to cut the budget before the school year begins. This happens time and time again. Here's the real problem. Christian schools are failing as a result of this model, this economic model. They lack resource, they have subpar academics, they have high staff burnout, and many end up closing their doors. But our desires are different. We at Ascent Christian want a healthy, flourishing, and sustainable school. We want to be around in 20 years for your grandchildren and for mine to attend. So I've shared with you our history and the overarching problem of Christian school finance. But now I get the privilege of sharing with you where we're headed. By the Lord's grace and continued provision, we have found wise counsel from nationally recognized experts through the Herzog Foundation, who supports Christian schools all across the country, through Dr. Alan Pugh and others. And they have expressed the same sentiment. We're surprised you are still here. God has a plan. Amen. We stand here today only through God's faithfulness and grace on the cusp of a very exciting season. These experts have introduced us to a better method of building a school budget and will be coaching us through this transition. We also have a strong finance committee and a board to help us navigate this. That's all right. I want to unpack just a bit for you about what this coaching is going to look like. The board and the administration are in partnership with Dr. Alan Pugh with the Barnabas Group. They are a network of experienced leaders who have a passion to help Christian schools excel. They have helped over 200 schools move into a sustainable model. Dr. Pugh focuses on strategic planning, governance, financial stewardship, student recruitment, and teacher compensation, among many other things. So he will be working with our Ascent leadership team and the board on a 6 to 9 month strategic planning process. He will be gathering data from teachers and families just like you to help inform the school's strategic vision. If I only had time to tell you of how God brought us this opportunity. It's another story in the school's history of God's continued grace, mercy, and faithfulness. Honestly, this is not just good news. This is great news for us. So let me describe the first steps that we're going to be taking through this process. On the screen, you'll see 3 buckets. These buckets represent the various costs that a school incurs. Bucket 1 is our operational budget. That is salaries, rent, security, and the other items that I shared on the pie graph previously. Bucket 2 is filled with major program enhancements, developing new programs, and financial assistance for families. Bucket 3 is filled with the large capital projects like buying a building or in our case, building a second science lab. And as I mentioned, there are two ways that schools receive funds: tuition and donations. In this ideal school budget, tuition fully covers bucket 1, and donations covers buckets 2 and 3. So Ascent Christian is moving to a model of sustainability that reflects best practices, wise counsel, and financial stewardship. I want to give you an analogy to help describe the dilemma of Christian schools. When you build a home, your builder might give you 3 options: lots of square footage, low price, and high-end finishes. But then your builder tells you you can choose 2. Only 2. You can choose a big house with a low price, but it won't include the high-end cabinets or the dual shower head. If you choose a big house with nice finishes, it will cost you more. This is much like Christian education, except that for us, the options are small class sizes, excellence, and low tuition. And when we say excellence, we mean excellent instruction, sustainable finances and stewardship, and fair wages for our staff. So we at Ascent Christian are unwilling to sacrifice small class sizes and excellence. We are a school that values people and relationships. And so with this model of sustainability in mind, we are strategically addressing 2 things: enrollment and tuition. First, our enrollment goal is to eventually fill 2 sections from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. And by this we mean we want 2 classrooms full of first graders and 2 classrooms full of seniors. As you know, we've already had to double our secondary sections, and that's been that way for over 10 years. But our old building posed significant problems for enrollment in elementary. Historically speaking, the structure of our school supported 2 sections of secondary classes from 7th grade to 12th grade, and only 1 section for K4 through 6th grade. This was because of a few things. Number 1, the school previously put more emphasis on the secondary program. We are changing that. Number 2, the space was limited and not ideal in our elementary buildings. And in 2022, we began to experience increased growth in elementary specifically, and this was part of our prayerful and informed decision to move here. Not only did we want to welcome more missionally aligned families to our elementary program, but we also wanted to give our elementary teachers the opportunity to work collaboratively with another grade level teacher. In this new space, we have classrooms for all sections to be doubled. And as you know, we have already been able to double just a few of those in elementary. Some of you might be sitting here because we have that ability in this beautiful new space. So welcome, and thank you for saying yes. So you might be wondering the actual size of a classroom. We have considered research, best practices, and the ideal student-to-teacher ratio based on age group for direct instruction and one-to-one support. And so we have determined to keep class sizes around 8 to 10 in K4, 15 to 18 students in kindergarten through 6th grade, 16 to 19 students in 7th grade and 8th grade, and 17 to 20 students in our high school program. We want to be able to welcome more missionally aligned students and families because we believe in Christian education. And we believe that Ascent Christian is making a difference in the lives of our students. Oh. And with that, Ascent Christian's board has approved a plan for the next year that will keep class sizes low, increase teacher pay, and eventually eliminate the operational deficit. So next year, I know that would be nice, that would be great. So next year, we will be increasing tuition to the rates on the screen. This is roughly $75 more a month for elementary and middle school, and $100 more a month for high school. Even with this increase, our operational budget will still have a deficit to be covered by increased enrollment and donors. We recognize that for some families, this increase may present a real hardship. We want to walk us alongside you, and I want you to hear this from me, that our financial assistance will be available, and we are committed to providing clear information and personal conversations to help you make informed decisions for your family. Above all, we do not want you to walk this journey alone. So you will have opportunities to meet one-on-one with Heather Johnson regarding financial assistance, and I am personally making myself available for conversations as needed. So feel free to sign up with the QR codes behind me, or you can look for more information in an email to come. We understand this is a lot of information, and so we want to provide about 5 minutes to answer any questions. So behind me, there's a QR code that you can scan and fill out questions, and we'll answer as many as we can from the stage tonight. But while you're filling those out, I want to provide you a quick summary. And then we do have some anticipated questions that we already have prepared ready for you, because we know that you probably have them. But I want to remind us that this school is God's, and it always has been. He's carried us through lots of storms and sustained us when it didn't make sense. In 2021, our financial situation changed, and we were left with a large deficit in our budget. Since then, we cut everything in our budget that we could, except for our teachers and their salaries. The deficit has been made up through donations and COVID payments. Even with this current deficit, our teachers are still underpaid. But God has a plan, and He has shown us this plan through nationally recognized experts. And that plan is twofold: invite more students through our doors and raise tuition. While we understand that change takes time, we also know that this is exactly where God is calling us, and we want you to come along with us. So we have a few things. I know that there's a few questions out there burning, but one of the questions that we anticipated that you would ask is this: how will the year-end campaign be used? So you know that we just had a year-end campaign, a giving campaign, and I want to just kind of give you a quick glimpse of over the course of 4 years ago, our annual salary impact to our budget was $350,000 for teachers. It is now $800,000. And so we are now using that money to bridge the gap, the remaining deficit that has happened over the years as we've course corrected teachers' salaries. So that money is going to be going to offset the deficit that we have this year. All right, are we going to raise tuition next year, meaning the following year? So we've already acknowledged and announced that our tuition for the next school year, 2026 to 27, we will be raising tuition. But I'm going to turn this question over to our board member, Josh Canifax, who is the head of our financial committee.
Wow. All right, so Josh Canifax, I've been on the board for a couple years, head of the finance committee, working with the team here, both the school and the board, on everything we're talking about here tonight. So I'm a proud parent of 3 kids that attend here, and then 1 that is full-time homeschool. I've been here for 6 years now. So when we started, it was 2020, and that was when all the stuff that Jim talked about started. So we've hung in there and are really excited about the future of the school. So getting into this question specifically. So as we have evaluated all the decisions here tonight and where we're setting tuition for the next fiscal year. We've looked at a 3 to 5 year forecast and have preparations and plans for all the different scenarios that could happen. In terms of what happens the following year, so the 27, 28 calendar year, way in the future, it depends, right? So it depends on a couple of variables. One, the enrollment numbers that we get this year will influence budget decisions for the following year. And then two, the rate of increases that we implement for the budget in the following year for teacher pay. So it is a progress for us to get to the desired kind of minimum base level that we have in mind as a board and as a staff for teacher pay to gradually get there. And so as all those variables kind of come into play, we'll take it year by year. But on the surface, as we've kind of looked in different scenarios, kind of a baseline to downside scenario for us is that in the next calendar years of 27, 28 again, that there would be a tuition increase of a similar magnitude as the one that has occurred this year. And that in a perfect world is kind of it, but it's going to be a year by year kind of decision based on enrollment growth and how fast we increase teachers' pay, plus anything that comes in on the donation side as well.
It's at this time, I just want to thank you. I know your time is precious. I know that it's a great sacrifice to come here. I also know that this model takes a great amount of sacrifice. So I want to personally thank you for partnering with me and with this school and with the mission, for sharing in the mission of this school. It is truly a privilege. Our God is a God of transformation, and we believe that this is the time in our children's lives to be transformed, not by this world, but by God, who delights in them and in his kingdom coming to earth. And you as parents and we as staff are actively accomplishing God's will of transformation in the lives of children. So I leave you with this. Romans 12:2 says, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good, perfect, good and acceptable and perfect." Good night, and God bless you.